What's going on, everyone? We're going to get to the Broncos OC and DC search update in just a moment, plus what the Sean Payton press conference means for Russell Wilson. But if you are excited for the Sean Payton era to get underway and hopefully bring back winning football to the Mile High City, hit that thumbs up icon to start today's show. Now, here's what we got on tap for the good people of the Broncos Breakdown on this wonderful Tuesday afternoon. Coaching staff is starting to get pieced together a little bit. We've got some interviews lined up. We've got some buzz out there, so we're going to hit on that. Plus, the incoming changes for Russell Wilson with Sean Payton at the helm now, how his day-to-day life is going to change once the season gets underway, because it's more than just Sean Payton putting in different plays, but there's going to be a lot of changes for number 3. But let's start things off with a quick news roundup right now. This one coming in from Mike Kliss, that per source, Broncos outside linebackers coach Bert Watts is not expected to return. Did a nice job with ever-rotating banged-up group of edge rushers in his one season here. Another candidate to follow Ejiro Evero to Carolina. And I'm going to agree. I mean, these positional coaches, fans, we don't really get all that great of a sense of a who's who in the locker room, because a lot of these guys, they're better known for what they do maybe outside of Sunday and getting their troops ready for game day. But you got to admit, even when Bradley Chubb got traded, when Randy Gregory went down, the outside linebacker position has not been a huge issue for the Broncos, despite a lot of turnover at that spot the last couple of years, but just for Watts one season. And then there's this for Mike Kliss as well. Broncos tight end Jake Moreland and assistant offensive line coach Ben Steele are not expected to return. Both did a nice job this year under difficult circumstances and have options going forward. So, listen, I expect Sean Payton to gut most of the Broncos coaching staff, if not everyone, right? If there was one name he was going to keep, it would have been Evero. Not looking like that is the case, so I am expecting a complete coaching staff overhaul with Sean Payton coming in and not being a first-time head coach like Hackett, right, who is looking to maybe bring some of his buddies aboard, but also you see young coaches sometimes keep a lot of things in place that worked well. Wasn't the case for Hackett, which kind of bit him in the butt a little bit, especially the offensive line. But I think Sean Payton, with a year off, he's got the Avengers crew. He's going to assemble all of his guys and get them to Denver. So with that being said, his primary DC target is not someone who he has overlapped with, but it is the Seattle Seahawks associate head coach Sean Desai. He is actually interviewing for the Broncos DC job today, maybe even right now. Now, he's had that post before. He was the Chicago Bears DC back in 2021 when Vic Fangio left Chicago to take the Broncos job. Chuck Pagano replaced him as DC. Pagano eventually retired, and Sean Desai was the in-house promotion. Now, he is an extremely intelligent coach. When you ask anyone about Sean Desai, the word intelligence is going to be one of the first things that come up. Now, we always see a lot of cliches thrown around with coaches, and we don't really get to know what their impact is because it's hard to evaluate a assistant coach or a DC or OC when all you have to work with is how their defense put up numbers, right? But Sean Desai is a different kind of smart, right? He is a very smart fella. So you go back to where he started, and that was with Temple. He was the defense and special teams coach. He's got 3 degrees, by the way, from Boston University, Columbia, and Temple. But his football resume, he was the assistant director of football operations in 2011 for Miami. He was the running backs coach and special teams coordinator for a year up in Chestnut Hill. And then for a while, he was in Chicago with the Bears. Started off as a defensive quality control. He was promoted to safeties coach. And then in 2021, one season as the defensive coordinator. And then this past season, he was the associate head coach. When Matt Nagy got fired in Chicago, they had a new guy come in, Matt Eberflus. He changed the overall staff, and thus Sean Desai was out in Chicago. Not because he did a bad job, which we'll look at some of his stats in just a moment and get you guys up to speed on who Sean Desai is in just a moment. But first, I got to tell you all about some information regarding today's sponsor, which is Fume. So today's Broncos Breakdown is sponsored by Fume. And we all have bad habits, and we certainly know how hard it can be to kick those bad habits. Now, our sponsor, Fume, is on a mission to accelerate humanity's breakup from the bad habits that consume far too many of us. Fume is a natural diffusive device that uses plants and behavioral science to help you trade out your negative habit for a positive one. I personally didn't expect a whole lot out of Fume when I got it, but the minty sensation is really powerful and it really hits the back of the throat. Now, Fume comes with a journey pack that has 3 unique flavors, okay? And those 3 unique flavors are white cranberry, maple pepper, and crisp mint. You can see the product here. It's lightweight, it's mobile, fits nicely in your hand, okay? Now, Fume is not a vape. It's a non-electronic device designed to transform your negative habits. The easiest way to stop a bad habit is to switch to a positive one, and Fume is designed perfectly to do just that. Head to tryfume.com/chatsports and use code CHATSPORTS to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com/chatsports and use code ChatSports to save an additional 10% off. I've got that link for everyone in the comments and the description of today's show. Getting back to Sean Desai and his background. In 2021, he was the Bears DC, and here's how his defense fared. Yards allowed, they were sixth best in the NFL. Passing yards, they were 3rd. Rushing yards, 23rd. Points allowed, 22nd. And takeaways, they were tied for 28th. Not a huge sample size. It was just one season as the DC. He had some good pieces, right? He had Khalil Mack. He had Robert Quinn set a single high season best franchise in sacks. If that was even English, a franchise single season high in sacks. Robert Quinn, 2021. There it is. But he also had some other nice pieces like Eddie Jackson and whatnot. Listen, Sean Desai is not Vic Fangio. He's not Brian Flores. He is not necessarily viewed as one of the best defensive minds in football. But I think he's getting to that point. I think this would be a strong hire for the Broncos. Sure, he might not be one of those household names, but I'm telling you guys, he is well-liked in NFL circles. And anytime you see someone get an in-house promotion when a coordinator job opens up, that really says a lot about the way they are viewed within that locker room and building an organization. So when he got promoted as the DC in Chicago, when Chuck Pagano stepped down, that really tells you a lot about how he is viewed. He's also one to work with DBs, which Denver, they've got a great one in Patrick Surtain. You might have heard of him. But outside of that, they need Damari Mathis to come up the wings a little bit. They need Caden Stearns to take a step up, which he is still awesome, and be that next starting safety next to Justin Simmons. Help us out really quickly, everyone. We are almost at 12,000 subscribers here at the channel. We're 63 away. So if you have not subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so. Help us reach this next milestone before the week is up, because that'd be really awesome. Let's switch gears here, and let's talk about the offensive coordinator search now. So Jeff Duncan, who has become a half Broncos beat reporter, he's just buddies with Sean Payton, so he's got some sources on that side of things, says the Broncos plan to interview Saints QB coach Ronald Curry for their offensive coordinator position. Sean Payton targeting 3 more Saints assistant for his Broncos staff, okay? I sure hope there is a direct flight from Armstrong Airport in New Orleans to Denver, because it feels like there is a mass exodus happening right now of coaches in New Orleans following their old head coach Sean Payton up to Mile High. Now, Ronald Curry, a little background information on him. Like I said, he's interviewing for the OC position. He's been the Saints quarterback coach for the previous 2 seasons. He's also got 9 years of NFL coaching experience. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, where do I know this name from? Why does this sound familiar? Andrew Mason tweeted out this picture here, and oh, right, he's that guy for the Raiders, the wide receiver, who had that incredible one-handed grab in the back of the end zone way back when. So, name a random Raiders wide receiver, Ronald Curry is a good one here. His career path is this. He was the Raiders wide receiver for, I think it's even longer than 2007 to 08. That's probably a typo on my bad. 2001 to 08. But regardless, the 49ers, he was the offensive assistant from 2014 to 15. He was the OC offensive assistant then for the Saints in 2016 to 17, wide receiver coach, and now the QB coach for the past 2 seasons, which He hasn't had a ton to work with, but he did make Andy Dalton probably a little bit better than we all thought he would be where he is in his career. So you can kind of hang your head on that. Listen, when it comes to the Broncos offensive coordinator, similar to Justin Houghton, like the OC is going to be behind the scenes guy. He's not going to be the play caller. That responsibility will fall to Sean Payton. So he will be someone that is, like I said, behind the scenes, a part of the offensive game plan and getting an offensive game plan ready week in and week out. So it'll be hard to really assign blame to him or give him a ton of credit because that's what happens when you're an OC and you don't call plays. Quick question I want to ask everyone watching right now. What do you think the Broncos' record will be in 2023 with Sean Payton as head coach? He turned around a Saints team that had 3 wins the prior year and got them to the NFC Championship game in his first season. I don't know if that'll be it's pretty ambitious for year 1 in Denver, but I don't think it's impossible to say 10-plus win season. Denver did have 9 one-score losses last year. You flip about half of those, you're right there at 10-7, 11-6, 9-8. You're in that range for sure. So to wrap up today's show, I want to talk about Russell Wilson and how the Sean Payton hire impacts Russ, right? What changes can we expect? Well, there's one big change that everyone's talking about, and that is the private coaches that Russell Wilson has and how they will be no more. Here's what Sean Payton said yesterday about the matter. That's foreign to me. That's not going to take place here. I'm unfamiliar with it, but our staff will be here, our players will be here, and that'll be it. So we all know that Russell Wilson has a bit of an entourage, and that was something he was excited to put on full display once he got to Denver. So he's got a private QB coach, Jake Heaps, who we'll talk about in just a second, his own personal trainer, his own strength and conditioning coach, and a massage therapist. Now, for everyone saying this is, the private QB coach is out of bounds, it's unbelievable, there's a lot of quarterbacks that have their own coach, by the way. I know Lamar Jackson does. I know Brady did for a while, and then Belichick banned him from the facility, kind of like what Sean Payton's doing here. But you might remember we've talked about Jake Heaps before because go back a couple months ago, and there was this huge argument, this huge fight on Broncos Twitter about Russ's private QB coach and whether or not it was a problem and whether or not he was getting in the way of things. And I think Jake Heaps kind of became a scapegoat, to be honest with you guys. He's not the reason Russell Wilson had a down year last year. And, believing that if you remove Jake Heaps from the facility, things are going to get a whole lot better probably isn't true. I do wonder how Russell Wilson is taking this news because that was a sort of a decent reason why he kind of wanted out of Seattle, which is he felt that the Seahawks were restricting him a little bit. And he wanted to go someplace where he can be empowered and he can be his own quarterback, head coach, CEO, and really be in charge of things. And now, after one season with Hackett, that's sort of getting taken away when he has Sean Payton in charge here. Now, I got some other interesting quotes from Sean Payton I want to share with you guys about Russell Wilson and his down season last year. Here's what Payton said. Obviously, last season wasn't the type he wanted to have. I do feel like the past couple of weeks, we saw a little bit more of what we were expecting or accustomed to. So, like I mentioned, though, Russ wanted out of Seattle to be a QB/CEO, and that's probably not going to happen with Sean Payton. But I do think this is probably a good thing for Russell Wilson because he needs a coach who's going to get him back to where he was. And who was the best candidate for that in this head coaching circus? It was Sean Payton because Drew Brees wasn't a future Hall of Fame bound quarterback when Sean Payton took over. Nope, like Russell Wilson, a little bit shorter, doesn't work so well over the middle of the field, and that's perfectly fine. Sean Payton was great at getting the best out of Drew Brees and putting him on full display as one of the league's best quarterbacks. Hopefully he can do the same for Russell Wilson. So I want to throw this question in your direction. Do you like the changes coming for Russell Wilson? Yes or no? I think we can all agree that Russell Wilson is one of the hardest working quarterbacks, hardest working players in the NFL. And even myself, sometimes we can get suckered into throwing too many jabs his direction for being a bit of a cheese ball, a bit corny at times. There's no denying it. But I do hope that Sean Payton's influence is going to kind of get him back in line a little bit and ditch the Russell Wilson entourage and the wearing his own jersey to practice and the alleged parking spot and things like that, and kind of maybe just put him back in line with the rest of the players. I appreciate everyone who took time and made us a part of your day. We will sign off here, but we'll be back tomorrow with more Broncos news and rumors.